Hey everyone, thank you for joining me in my session. My name is Daniel and I'm the head of operation here at Moonee. What I'm doing is I'm in charge of the testing processes here in Moonee. It's from we have an initial prototype up until the game is about to be published. So far during 2021, we had tested around 1,500 different prototypes. So we want to take this opportunity in this session to share a bit of our insights and experience about how exactly do we testing a game, how are we looking at them, and what you can do from your side for them to be better. So first of all, what I want to say is here in Moonee, we're looking at the test as some kind of a predicting tool. We don't have a certain strict and hard KPIs that if you're not reaching a certain CPI, day one retention, or playtime, we just kill the prototype. We understand that there are certain things that are being able to improve. So when we're looking at a prototype, we're looking at the potential of it and the option of it to increase and improve it to be better. Even if we don't have a very, let's say, good day one retention, but the CPI looking great, we will give it a chance and work with our game designer to see how we can improve it. Here in Moonee, since day zero, even before the developer is testing with us the game, we're having with the developer inside the group its own game designer, publisher manager, and also the lead game designer and our head of creative marketing in order to help him to have the best prototype he can have even before the test. So the game designer is going through the prototype and is giving all kind of insights and tips, what things should be better. And also when we get the creatives, our head of creatives going over them. And if there are any certain things that need to be changed, we talk to the developer how we can make them better. So when we are testing a games, most of the time it will be in Facebook ads platform, but we do understand that there are certain games that working differently on each platform. And we know that Facebook can be predictive, but until a certain level. So when we're testing a game, we understand that if we're running it only on Facebook ads, it's not meaning that it will work the same on other platform, and vice versa. If it didn't work, it also doesn't mean that it won't work on other platform. And I will give an example for it for one of the games later on. You can see here some different views of our videos for a game of ours, Makeover run. On the left, you can see how it looks inside of Facebook feed. In the middle, it's TikTok. And on the right, it's how it looks inside of a game. It's a bit more playable ads that are more relevant for gamers that we're advertising inside of different games in networks. As you can see, the ads themselves look different because we know that each platform needs to have some adjustment and they have a bit of different point of view on how they look at creatives and how each creative can work differently on each network. So we're putting a lot of emphasis to have the creatives adjusted to the relevant platform that we're running it. I can say that the UA, the user acquisition world, is divided into two different groups. One of them is called socials, and it's the social networks that you know, Facebook, TikTok, Google, Snapchat, for examples. There we're paying on CPM, and the platform itself with its algorithm will try to get us the lowest CPI as possible. On the other hand, we have networks, which the biggest ones are Unity, Plavin, Iron Source, that it's a network of a lot of different games that connected to it. And we will advertise the game directly inside of different games. On those platforms, the payment is mostly on CPI, which means that we determine in advance what will be the CPI of the game. When we are testing games on such platforms, we're trying to put the same CPI to all of them. And then with other metrics that I will also talk about later on, we try to assess if the game is working good for us or not. So as I was about to say about different metrics, when we're looking at a test, we're not looking solely on CPI or day one and playtime. We're looking at all of other different metrics that can help us and assist us to understand the popularity and the potential of the game itself. For example, as you can see in the graph below, we have the CPM of our testing during January 20 up until this month, October 21. As you can see, during this time, it increased more or less by 3 times, which means if we had a game that had 30 cents on April 20, it will have 90 cents on October 21. So the CPM is affected by the demand and supply of the platform itself, and as the competitive becomes strong and stronger, actually in each month in the hyper casual world. So we're trying to have more insights and more metrics that would help us to understand if a game can work or not on other platform and if it has a potential to grow. For example, such metrics are CTR and IPM, where CTR is the ratio between the impression at click, which means how popular was the ad that the user saw and if a lot of people clicked it. And the IPM is the number of installs we had for 1,000 impression. So we can look at a lot of different tests and compare the IPM of them and to understand which of them were more popular, which of them had more installs for 1,000 impression, and which were lower. Besides of those metrics, when we are in advanced testing, we're adding monetization and we're looking at more and more metrics to help us also from the revenue side, the number of ads, the eCPM that the ads that we're showing inside of game are creating, the retention and the playtime is relevant for both sides, for the testing and for the advanced testing. But we have a lot of different metrics and aspects that we're taking into consideration. And with our own algorithm, we can evaluate a prototype potential to be published in 3 or 4 days to understand its LTV and to know if we should publish this game or not. But I will also talk about it a bit more later on. So as I was saying, with those metrics that are some kind that can assist and help us to understand if games are working better or not, I want to show you a few examples of hits that we had here in Moonee and what we had in the beginning and up until the last test. So Whipmaster example. I don't know if you know or not, but we had Whipmaster going #1 in the charts only a week and a half ago. So you can see on the upper side of the slide, its initial test. The CPI was 53 cents. If we were looking only solely of CPI, we couldn't really understand the potential of this game to be a hit or to work really, really good. And if you can look on the right, the CPM of it was very, very high. But we did notice that the CTR and IPM both were incredibly good. So we did understand that in terms of popularity of the user, there is something here and there is a lot of potential for it to be published or to work better on also other platforms. So what we've done some adjustment to the creatives. We tried another test. As I mentioned, our head marketing creatives work with the developer to create different scenes and to see if any of them can work better. So instead of just dropping this prototype completely because the CPI wasn't good enough, we did see behind the numbers, it's solely the CPI, and we understand that we have something to try. So after we did some changes, we were able to decrease the CPI to 32 cents, and the CTR and IPM also very, very increased. So we know that we really have a hit game in our hand, and less than a month since the test of it, as you can see on the 11th of September, we already reached #1 in the store with it. Another example that I want to share with you is our Squarebird game. We had Squarebird as our first published game more than 2 years ago already. It was on August of 2019. At the initial test of it, the CPI was 72 cents, which is also for 2 years ago that the prices were much lower, was very, very high. Instead of just dropping it completely, we saw also in the creatives and the gameplays that we got and tested, and also while playing the game itself, that there is potential to have much better metrics with it. In our initial test, it was a bit slow, a bit laggy. There are a lot of different characters and funders and all kind of different stuff, which made the game look a bit messy. What we tried to do with the developer is to clean the game, to make it look more smooth, to increase a bit the speed, which gave it to the video a much more fluent, I can say, movement, and the results of it were incredible. So we tested in a month separation as you can see, it looks much more clean, much more clear. In less than a month, we had a test from 72 cents jumping to 12 cents. And with those creatives and with this game, we were also able to reach #1 in the store. Last example that I want to share with you is the Makeover run example. As I told you that not every game will work the same on different platforms. For example, here in the initial test, we had a CPI of 63 cents. After the test, we kind of let go a bit of the game, but we also continue to monitor it. So while we are working and monitoring with our own different tools, we saw a big increase in organic. We tried to figure out where it's coming from and we investigated, and we saw that it had some kind of trend on TikTok. So we had specific ads for TikTok, and when we tested it, the CPI was 7 cents. So think about it. The same game, two different platforms. One of them is having around 60 cents, one of them less than 10 cents. We're never giving up on the potential that we see, and we're trying to maximize each opportunity. So that's what I want to show with you about. Don't rely only on Facebook, and we're trying to use as many different platforms. While we're doing advanced testing, we want to make sure that to see how the game will work on each of the different partners. So I want to share a bit also about our flow and our approach. First of all, in the initial test, as I mentioned, we have a lot of people in our team already working with the developer, the game designer, publisher manager, lead game design, and the head of creative marketing, all together working with the developer to have the best prototype that it can be. After that, we're looking on playtime retention, IPM, also CTR, CPI, and more different metrics. And we try to assess the potential of it, even if it didn't reach a very good CPI. Most of the time, we will try, not most of the time, every time, we're investigating and looking what the test was, how the creators perform, and if there's any potential for the game to be better or not. If we see any potential, we will work. If there's need any work on the CPI, the head of creative marketing will work on the developer, trying to understand if there are any materials that we didn't got, can we try different scenes to create specifically for creatives, and then also to implement that in the game if they work better. If there's any issue of retention of playtime, we will stay with the same creatives if the CPI is good, and the game designer will work with the developer to try to improve those metrics. Once all the metrics looking good, CPI, IPM, retention, playtime, we will add the monetization on it, and we will run it on all of the different QA platforms. We will also test a bit of different geo to understand how it will work, not only solely on US. We will look at the number of ads with the combination of the retention, the playtime, the eCPM that we're creating, and to take all of this into consideration and into our own in-house algorithm, we will have an initial look on the LTV, and we could understand what's the potential of the game in terms of return. And then our head of growth, we try to assess and to understand exactly what's its growth potential and scalability potential, and then we will run it in scale. So the last thing that I wanted to talk with you about is the efforts the developers are doing between working on a prototype and the gameplay and the game itself, and the creative and the store. Most of the time, the developers are working very, very hard to do a prototype, and once they have it, they're just sending the minimum initial creatives that's needed and working with that. What they need to understand that the creative that they are sending and the store is, I can say, some kind of the business card. If people will look at it and if they will understand it and if they will be interested in it, then they will go into the gameplay. So you really need to make sure when you're working on creatives to have the best resolution, tons of different scenes that we can work with, and to have a lot of different versions of different creative, to have satisfying moments, to make sure that you're setting the best quality, I can say, product in terms of the creatives. So the test could be as best as possible. Sometimes a developer is working very hard on the game, but the creatives are not showing enough of the really fun and interesting gameplay, and some prototypes go to waste like that. So make sure when you are working with publishers to have and to send the best creative materials that you can, as this will determine the CPI more than everything. Besides that, the other thing that you need to work on and to make sure that you're not neglecting is the store. Make sure that the icon is looking good, that you have an interesting description and the screenshot showing different things, that it won't be exactly the same or only one screenshot, because it will look like you didn't invest enough in the store, and the players that are clicking on the ad but get into the store and it sees that it looks there that the game is not really interesting, they won't download it, and it will affect directly your CR, which it affects directly on your CPI. So you can also try to look at examples of all kind of different games that are in the top of the stores, and to see what are their stores, top of the charts, and to see how their stores look like, and trying to understand how you can do your store better. So for conclusion, I think that one of the biggest things that are important for us here in Moonee is we are seeing the developers as partners, that we're working as a partnership with them. And it's not like that they're just doing their own tests in our platform, and if it's working, then good. If not, then we'll kill the prototype. It's a process, and we want to have a long-term relationship with each of the developers. And I can say that almost all of our developers are doing a lot of different tests with us, and we're not testing only one prototype, because we understand that the relationship with them is very important, and we need both sides to be on board and to work together in order to have a good prototype and hopefully to publish. So that, and to put the efforts on the creatives and the ASO, can grant you a very big hit one day. Thank you very much for your time. I will be here for some Q&A for you. Thank you and good day.
Okay, guys, here is a Q&A session with Daniel from Moonee, whose speech was absolutely awesome and exciting. I have Daniel. Hi, first of all. Hi.
Hi, thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming to our conference. Being a moderator is good in many ways, and the one of them is ability to ask the first question, maybe a couple. How do you define trends? What's trending? What should be tested? How do you pick the game genre to be tested? Could you please tell a little bit more about that? How do you discover trends?
Okay, so I can say that the tests that we are doing are running on all types of different genre in the hyper-casual world. It's not that we're putting emphasis on something in specific or in particular. You can also see by the portfolio of the game that we publish that we have idle games and runners and 2D, 3D dexterity. We have a lot of different games that we publish, and it's also going hand in hand with the games that we are testing. So it's not that we're putting emphasis on a specific genre, we're testing everything. Regarding to trends, our own in-house game designer team with the head of the creatives marketing are working together all day long to look at the trends that are in games, and also not only in games, to understand what kind of different genre and trends there are out there and what should we do in our own testing. Also, sometimes before testing a game with a developer, we're giving him our own pitch and ideas, not only of idea that he's coming in with his own. So we're putting a lot of efforts to be on point and on top all the time with the current and relevant trends, and also to the upcoming trends, to be the first one to dictate what will be the trend. So we're working nonstop on it.
I see. Thank you so much. Okay, and at least one more question for me. How do you choose the platform for user acquisition? For testing?
Yeah, so I can say in our initial testing, based on the game, we will decide which platform we will test it. Most of the tests will be with Facebook ads platform, but sometimes from the first test, we will try it on TikTok or even in Unity. Because, as I talked in the presentation, that we understand that there are certain games that will work differently on each of the UA platforms. So with our vast experience, we already kind of understand that we shouldn't rely only on one platform, and most of the time we're trying on some various different platforms to understand exactly how it will work and on which platform it should work better and which type of ads will work better on different platforms.
Thank you so much. We have questions from the audience. CPI trends to increase a lot when you increase your daily budget. How often do you experience this situation, and how do you tackle this problem?
Okay, that's a great question. When testing, we're putting a low amount of daily budget, and because of the algorithms of the social will work that it will try to get you the lowest CPI as possible. That's also the reason why we're looking at tests more of a predictive, because we know that the CPI on scale will be much higher. So let's say, for example, if we have a test that doing 30 cents and then we're adding monetization and we see that the LTV is 30 cents, 35 cents, we understand that it's not enough, because once we will be on scale, the CPI will increase. What we're looking at is to have a high amount of LTV, that we know that we have some kind of a cushion, I will say, between the initial CPI when we have on low scale, and that it will grow and be bigger once we're going on scale. So the LTV that we're projecting is much more higher than the initial CPI that we see on tests. We understand that this is what it will be, and that the CPI will only increase as we increase in volume. I won't say that it's a problem, just that it's more of a fact and a matter of state that this is how the platforms are working, and we know it, and we understand it, and we're taking it into consideration.
Thank you so much. The next question is in a way connected to the previous one. What steps should we take to lower CPI?
It's a very, very hard question, because it's not that there isn't a formula that you need to do ABC and then your CPI will be lower. You need to be able to be on trend. The game should look very good. The creative should be like with a lot of different scenes and interesting. And as I said in the presentation, the creatives and the store have a lot of effect and emphasize on what your CPI will be. So I can say from our what we're doing, and I can say from the experience of our team, that we talk constantly with the developers to understand together how the CPI can be the lowest as possible with the prototype that we are about to test. So it's very each case to its own, and a game that had 20 cents 2 months ago can be already out of trend and to have like 80 cents, 90 cents today. So it's a complicated question to answer, and if it was that simple, the industry would look different. But yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much. Maybe you have a hint, I don't know, where to watch trends, maybe some kind of subscription, like go to TikTok, watch this and that, or subscribe there. You will know at least something about trends. Where to watch trends?
Yeah, so if I will be completely honest, I'm not working specifically on the trends inside the team in Moonee. We have a specific team members that are doing that, and there are trends on. Yeah, they're looking at TikTok, and even we can take the example of the Squid Game that was on Netflix. It has nothing to do to TikTok or to game, but still it has like tons and tons of games that popped after it. So it's not only to look at TikTok and to understand the trend there, but it's a bit more wide to understand the genres and trends that are in the world.
I see. Thank you so much. Next question. CPI tends. Mhm. Oh yeah, that's it. Is CPI testing only on Facebook, or do you look at other ad networks also? Yeah, that's the kind of question it was before, but you can update if you like.
Yeah, sure, I have no problem. So most of our initial tests will be on Facebook, but sometimes depends on the game. We will do it on TikTok, sometimes on Unity ads, and sometimes on more platform. Sometimes we're even doing it on parallel on a few different platforms altogether, because as I mentioned, we understand that the games can work differently on different platforms. So yeah, most of it will be Facebook, but depends on the game. We understand that sometimes it's needed to work on different platforms.
Thank you. Hi, Daniel. Thank you for the insights. How would you or UA manager conventionally track the success of marketing campaigns to improve user acquisition?
So I will take it on that it depends on the stage where the game is. If you're doing only, let's call it basic initial test, we will try to improve and to see what's the CPI, day one, retention, and playtime is. And based on that, we will know like if the game has potential or not. Once we're adding ads to the game, the most relevant thing for us is to understand the LTV. And once we're looking specifically on LTV, we're calculating and evaluating the number of ads, the ECPM of the ads that we're showing inside uh, our own game are having, like what's the revenue that we're able to manufacture, taking into consideration here as well the day one and retention. And once we have a full picture of the LTV, we can understand what's the potential of the game. So it's really differences between the stages of the test that we're doing, and we're taking different factors in each of the different steps.
Thank you so much. The next question: is it true the more polished is the game art, the higher CPI is?
Um, I can say honestly that no, to have a game that is polished is only it can make the CPI only lower and let's call it better, but it's very depends on the genre of the game and the trend of it and the creative that were shared and the ads themselves. So to have a polished game, it's better rather than to have an unpolished game. But as I mentioned, the, a lot of different things can affect it.
Thank you. The next one, probably the last for today. What benchmarks Mooney required for getting on board with the developer?
So I can say that there isn't any strict benchmark. Like the initial step is to have a call with our publisher managers and to understand together how we can work as a partnership and how we can test the games together of the developer.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It was absolutely amazing discovery from your speech and especially from your Q&A session. Uh, we appreciate you coming and sharing all the knowledge you have with us. Thank you so much.
Sure thing, and thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure to be a part of it.
Thank you. See you. Bye bye.
Great, good day. Bye bye.